Hello, everyone. Welcome to Film Seizure. My name is Jason Oliver, and I am one of the three co-hosts of Film Seizure here to talk about a movie today. One of those other people is Jeff. Hi, Jeff. Say hi.
Hi, how's it going? Do we all get like different names? Are we on the run? Can we be on the run? Let's get on the run.
We can be on the run, yeah.
Awesome. Call me Sanchez.
Okay.
Dirty Sanchez.
There it is.
And that's Chuck. Hi, say hello, Chuck.
Hi, you can call me Chuck.
Okay, we'll call you Chuck.
Dirty Chuck.
No.
Today's movie is the 1977, not quite a classic, Sorcerer by director William Friedkin. Good old Billy Friedkin. Is this our first? No, this is our second Billy Friedkin flick. We did To Live and Die in L.A. Apparently we just do all the non-popular.
Well, I did Exorcist on, that was the 250th Monster Mondays.
Well, I said we, Jeff.
Well, I'm saying that it's been represented, so.
Well, great. Good.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Most people, this is a good one too, but obviously most people when they think of William Friedkin probably think of The Exorcist and The French Connection.
Mm-hmm.
And those were the two movies he made before he made Sorcerer. So Sorcerer, he was kind of a little full of himself. He's like, I'm going to go out and remake this very well thought of French film called The Wages of Fear by a very well thought of director whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce, but his last name is pronounced Clouseau. Clouseau.
And it's not spelled like Inspector or Jacques. It's spelled more phonetically, and it's kind of awesome.
Clouseau, not Crusoe.
Well, that's correct, Chuck. Very good. I like it. All right.
This William Friedkin was kind of sort of buddies with Clouseau, and he wanted to remake the movie. He thought he could remake it for like just a little bit of money while he was trying to get another movie off the ground. So this was going to be like his bridge to that movie, and ended up ballooning in budget to well over $20 million. It just kind of like got out of control with the spending. It was sort of his Apocalypse Now in a way. And a lot of people think that he made this movie because he wanted to make his jungle movie because he knew that Coppola was making his. So they were like competing directors. I think William Friedkin's obviously one of the movie brats, if you will. He's one of the new Hollywood film directors, a sort of new auteur cinema that had come to the United States in the 70s and late 60s, which we've discussed in the past. And this very much kind of falls into that bucket, especially being a remake of a French film. I've seen this movie several times. I'd never seen Wages of Fear. I know that's probably sacrilege to some people, but I went ahead and watched it before I watched this again. So I have the perspective of seeing both of them more or less back to back. And it's an interesting comparison, I think. Friedkin says that he really was really remaking the novel. He was doing the novel more than he was remaking the French film. But there are some pretty clear similarities, but the story is very similar as well. But Friedkin does make it his own. There's a lot about his version that I like a lot that isn't in the French version, but there's also a lot of stuff in the French version I think that is done better, especially some of the more like tension building.
Well, I only have to assume that 20 years before they had a way better gigantic truck crossing a rickety-ass rope bridge scene, right? No, there's no scene like that.
There's no rope bridge.
There's no scene that could possibly compare to that
That is like the centerpiece of this movie.
Yeah, and I will say that is the peak of this movie
Yeah, it's
by a long shot.
it's a great sequence.
Because you get it twice. You have to do it twice. That's the great thing about this. The poster
Well,
only gives us one. It's
that's
two.
that's kind of what's great about the original, though, is like everything has to be done twice.
Yeah.
Because they make a lot of the fact that it's two trucks and they're split apart by 30 minutes. Because if one goes, they don't want it to take the other one with it.
That is an excellent point that I think it was itching at the back of my brain, which is like, oh no, they can't be right on top of each other, but it never crystallized that was the reason why they can't be on top of each other.
And so they're trying to send the lead car truck is trying to send messages, at all the obstacles to warn them of things. So that to kind of help them through as well. But of course, things get fucked up.
That happens in this one, though. Like, I had the total sense that they were apart for a reason, and they're because they don't want them all to die at the same time. And he leaves messages, more or less, but it's more
he does.
not tantalizing, taunting instead of helping.
Yeah, like one was good luck when they had the like that wooden bridge that went up around a curve before they got to the bridge or to the rope bridge. There was the very highly angled curve.
That is a very tense sequence in the original, and both of them have to do it. In this one, you only see one of them do it. And there's a whole thing with the first one that does it. They realize that the bridge is rotting, and they're able to get away, but they know it's going to be a big problem for the next truck. So they're trying to warn them about that too. Anyway, there's a lot of that stuff, like a lot of the actual travel, the transportation. I think I like Wages of Fear a little better. But I like the characters in Sorcerer better, and I like the cinematic aspect of Sorcerer better, and I really like the like first 30 minutes of them, like how do these people get to this place, right? Like why are they here? Because that's not in Wages of Fear at all. They're just at this place and they're kind of stuck. This opportunity arises. In Sorcerer, it's more of like the concept of El Rey. Do you know that concept? I think it was introduced by the guy who wrote the novel The Getaway. And El Rey was this like place where in Mexico where criminals could go to live in retirement, free of any law and any repercussions of
a place no one would go look for them.
Yes, exactly. And that's kind of the El Rey of this is that the place where they end up is sort of El Rey. That idea. El Rey was also it was appropriated by Robert Rodriguez from Dusk Till Dawn. He even named a damn television network after it. Yeah. But that's where they are. I guess what is it? Provenir is where they end up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the El Rey of the movie, right? And they're stuck. They don't have a way out because it's this poor country. They're there legally with illegal papers. They get paid really poor wages, and they can never save enough to afford to transport out, right?
Well, not only that, you got to grease a lot of palms to get the paperwork to get out.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like they're just even if they could afford a plane ticket, they don't have a visa.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have to pay someone and bribe someone to get them a visa. And they just don't have the means. But there's four in particular that we follow. You've got Nilo.
Nilo, which I wondered, this is kind of like where my brain was kind of at when I was watching this. Is he named that because he's a nihilist?
I don't know.
Right, because he basically kind of murders his way through life.
I assumed he was a Nazi hunter.
Oh, he could have been that too. Yeah.
because he kills the German to get his spot later, and he makes a big deal out of exposing him as a
Yeah.
as a Nazi. And then the other guy from Jerusalem, the Palestinian guy, what's his name?
Cassim.
He calls him a Zionist.
Yeah, Martinez, I think is his name.
Yeah.
But yeah, he shows up at some dude's apartment and just shoots the guy dead. It's like we don't get a whole lot of background there, but later on, you kind of maybe put together that he's a Nazi hunter. That was my thought anyway.
That could kind of make that kind of makes sense.
But
Although he ends up taking the one guy's spot just solely for the money part of it.
We're talking about Edward James
sure.
almost, right?
Almost.
Edward James
almost. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another funny thing about this movie is Friedkin didn't get to really cast anyone that he wanted to cast. He had an idea that he wanted I believe in the Roy Scheider role, C. McQueen, and he had Marcello Mastroianni, who we've talked about from the Seventh Victim. He wanted him, and I think the French guy's role.
I think he did pretty well with those two, though, in this movie. They're both really good.
Well, he worked with Scheider before. I mean, Scheider was Popeye Doyle's partner, so so he's worked with him at least, you know.
Yeah, but he didn't want him for this, and he also didn't want him for Exorcist. He fought Blatty because he wanted Scheider in Exorcist, and Friedkin didn't for whatever reason.
Well, he won that. He won that one. You win some, you lose some, Billy.
Yeah, but this one was kind of like he had this whole laundry list of people he wanted in these roles, and he didn't get any of them. So he always kind of felt like he didn't have a real star in the movie.
Kind of funny to say that, considering Roy Scheider was in the biggest movie of all time at the time.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's never really carried that star power there.
No, I mean, not until he was the captain of the Sequest, where he was really killing it.
DSV.
But even in Star Wars, or not Star Wars, Jesus Christ, Jaws, he was as good as he is, third fiddle in that movie.
Oh yeah, I'm the first person I think of is Shaw.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Robert.
Yeah, everyone remembers Shaw, and then even Mr. Holland's Opus. I can't remember his name right now.
Richard Dreyfuss. Yeah,
Richard
A lot of people want to forget that name right now.
even in wait, what's going on with Richard Dreyfuss?
Something. I don't know.
Oh, it's not good. Yeah, look it up. It's not good.
I think it's kind of like super right wing or something. But anyway.
Well, no, he made a big ass of himself on stage at a screening for Jaws about trans and pride stuff, and yeah.
Oh,
that's why I forgot his name, I guess.
Well,
yeah.
But even that, was it Hooper? Is that his name?
Yes, I think so.
Hooper.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway,
of course. Then you also are thinking about Bruce the Shark. You know, it's he's really the star, even though he never worked.
Well, even I saw on Broadway the Shark is not working, and even in that, Roy Scheider's character is almost an afterthought to Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss. Yeah, those two carry their characters, and carry the.
Which is interesting because Scheider has the most iconic line from that film. Maybe not the best line, but the most iconic with "You're going to need a bigger boat." People still think of the other guys first.
And he's always the face
and then
with
behind the scenes, Shaw and Dreyfuss famously didn't get along.
Yeah.
So it's a lot about them and their bickering and Robert Shaw's drinking. Yeah.
He also, Scheider also is the face of the movie with chum in the water, and then the shark comes up and he pops up with the cigarette in his mouth, But anyway,
I like Scheider in this. I think he's the most approachable. I feel like in Wages of Fear there isn't really anyone you identify with at all. And the characters are not that these are good guys, they're not good guys, But
they're pretty reprehensible dudes. Yeah.
but in Wages of Fear, they're even worse. Like they're like it's hard. It's really hard to actually care about any of them in Wages of Fear, which is why I think Sorcerer gets just a little bit of the go ahead for me as far as which one I like better.
Let's go through the 4 characters real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, because one of them I don't even know what he did that's bad. Roy Scheider, or Jackie Scanlon, is basically a gangster. He robs money from a church, which is owned by a gangster. And then he gets in an accident. All the people that are with him dies. And then he's told, you need to disappear. So he goes to this place.
This has got my favorite, that scene where he robs the bank with the Irish gang has my favorite line, which is, do you know whose parish this is? And the other guy's like, fuck you and the horse you rode in on.
Yes.
That's all he's got.
And then he shoots him.
Yeah.
He shoots a priest.
We have Kesem Martinez, whatever his name is. He's a political bomber, right? He bombs a building, and then he and his cohorts, one gets captured, a couple die, and then he gets away. Obviously ends up in this country.
Yeah, he's a Palestinian terrorist. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Palestinian terrorist. Terrorist. Nilo is the guy who shoots someone at the beginning. We don't know why, but Jason, like you said, he's a Nazi hunter probably.
But the moment he shows up in Provenir, all eyes are on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's well dressed.
Yeah, he's the only guy there in a white suit.
Yeah.
And did you notice later that when he was washing when he was taking a bath, that he also colored his hair to not be recognized because it drips off of him, and when you see him later, he's gray haired.
Yeah.
So he's even like he seemingly is hiding from someone too,
for sure. And then here's the one I don't know. I mean, I know Victor Manzon. He's trying to get $15 million to stop something.
He committed fraud.
I can tell you exactly what he did. He did exactly what Trump did. And that Trump will probably not get convicted for, but this guy was going to go to prison for. He was inflating assets, which is fraud, in order to say he had the collateral that he did not have in order to secure a loan.
Gotcha. And then he was asking his buddy's dad for the money so the business didn't get impacted. And then his buddy just blows his brains out.
Well, the dad says no, and he leans on him to say, you got to go back. Yeah. He is not only is he a fraudster, but he's also he's a coward.
Yeah, for sure. And he flees.
Oh, he just flat up leaves his wife with his credit card at dinner. Yeah, it's like, tell my wife I got to go work, and he's gone.
He gone. And they all end up in Porvenir, some sort of remote village in South America.
South America,
thank you. That's entire economy is relying on some American oil company.
Yeah, and you get the impression that there is that the government is partially authoritarian, partially trying to appear liberal to the outsiders so that they will buy the oil. Because there's obviously there's issues on the internal side of things, but they do mention at some point, do you think the president's going to risk his liberal appearance chasing after some rebels or something like that?
Right. They say the reason that they have to go get those nitroglycerin is that somebody bombs the oil well.
Yep.
That they have, and the guy who runs the place is like, well, we pay the president for protection. Why can't he protect us? And that the reason you just stated is the reason given. Like he can't do it.
And so there's an open oil well just on fire, and the idea is will dynamite it close? Is what I'm.
Well, I think what the idea is that you create a vacuum. So you suck up all the oxygen by creating a huge explosion around the well, and that will snuff it like a candle.
Okay. I wasn't sure exactly what the process was.
Blow it
I
out
know
is what they call it.
Yeah, I know that explosions can sometimes kill explosions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just kicks all the air out.
Yeah.
basically.
That's exactly what it is. Suck all the air out real fast, snuff it like a candle, it's out.
And
That's one thing I like
nitroglycerin goes
about-
up big time.
Yes, as we see later.
Oh boy, as we see multiple times.
That's one thing I like about this movie, because that first half hour, right, is like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why are we seeing these random people do these random things? And then we get to the explosion, they don't explain it. Motivation is never explained. You kind of have to piece it all together as you're watching it. And it's like a breath of fresh air. I know a lot of older movies do it this way, but you get spoon fed so often when you're watching a movie that this one was like a joy to piece together, even though it's pretty straightforward once you understand. Once you understand
and
what's going on.
also you got to give it some time, right?
Yeah.
Like we want so much exposition right from the jump nowadays in movies, right? Like they feel like if a director or a writer doesn't give you everything you need to know right away, they're afraid they're going to lose you. So yeah, I totally agree. I mean, Wages of Fear, I think, is that way almost to a fault, like, because they just drop you right into the town, and I'm just like, I don't even know where the fuck I am, right?
You know,
and it's in black and white. I can't even get a sense of the landscape, either, you know.
well, you know what this made me think about? This is a movie that plays out like a book does. You know, it's like a novel will do a lot of work to set the stage, to talk about what people are noticing, to talk about things. And well, when you're reading it, if you're reading it, you have you have a little bit more context and subtext. When you're watching it like this in a movie, you either have to be bought in, or it's going to be a hard time. It's going to be a hard road. It's going to be a harder road than what they had to drive that nitroglycerin on. I admit I didn't really get fully invested until the halfway point. The moment when they said, when they come out and they list off our 4 guys to drive the trucks.
Yeah.
That was where I'm like, all right, let's go. We're on the path now.
And that's about halfway. That's about halfway.
It's exactly about halfway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That little montage of the truck driving skills is kind of hilarious. It's
Yeah,
like the
there's-
only one in
yeah.
this movie where you're laughing. Like,
Yeah.
this is funny.
Oh yeah, like the one guy who's like, they're like, you can just stop. He's like,
I
no.
also like they have the bottle on the dashboard. Just watch, like, you know, the movement. It's like, yeah, it's good stuff.
You know,
I thought that was better done in this than in the original as well.
Yeah.
That whole sequence. Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because like I have just as many problems as what I like. So it's like I truly land 50-50 on this movie. The second half of this movie I think is just brilliant. Like the tension is so ratcheted up that it is like I am like instantly, like the moment they go wheel those fucking boxes out, put them in the truck, and then they lurch forward, I'm like, I'm at the edge of my seat at that point.
Yeah.
That first hour, I was not bought in all the way, and
I loved it.
However, I didn't dislike necessarily, like you said, Chuck, I didn't dislike the fact that I had to piece some stuff together. But what I found myself kind of drifting off towards was I liked looking and hearing the movie more than I actually liked watching the movie. If that makes sense. Like the way it's shot and the score is just so wonderful, and you can tell it's somebody like William Friedkin.
It
I'm
feels
far
like
more-
a fucking movie, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah, it
damn,
does.
it's cinematic. Like
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because you get like those shots of like those kind of helicopter shots of this jungle.
That huge plume of
Yeah.
fire and
And you're
kind
kinda-
of behind it. Oh,
Yeah, and you're kind of zooming around it, and I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. Like,
Well, it's very violent too. Like even the explosions, like the explosion that the one guy does in the beginning is like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then when the guy shoots his brains out, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, I kept
This
waiting
does
for
not
that
hold
when,
any punches.
yeah, because like you could kind of tell something was coming
Startling
because it's like
moments, yeah.
because the guy's walking away and it's like we're onto this too much. Something's happening behind him.
Yeah.
And it's like but like the
That felt Exorcist, the walk
Yeah.
too. I was like,
Yep.
that's so Exorcist like when he's
The,
walking back to the restaurant.
the car accident is just gruesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, all of it seems so very real. Like this feels like a movie that is happening in our real world. Like this shit happened. Is kind of how it feels. Now, granted, some of it could be William Friedkin holding a knife to the guy's throat and saying, "You're going to drive into a fucking truck, or I'm going to kill you."
Well, I was going to say, I mean, if Friedkin were still alive and he were to hear you, I think he'd be really happy to hear that, because I think that was his intention. Was like, he kind of shot films in almost documentary style in some ways, right? Like French Connection, very much so.
Yeah.
And he wanted to bring that element of his style to a movie that he loved, right? And I think he pulled it off. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's I just don't get invested in the actual plot until the journey begins.
It's fair.
But
I think the original is just as at fault for that same thing. And
Okay.
it might just be a matter of the source material.
Yeah, again, I mean, let's read the book. I bet the book is fascinating from first to last page.
Yeah, and I think Friedkin probably even realized that from Wages. He wanted to bring you more into these characters' worlds, which is why he did that whole first 30 minutes of showing you, these different set pieces and where these characters came from, which I appreciate quite a bit. Because it allows you in a very short amount of time, and I say this a lot, but it's like you can do a lot with a character in a very short amount of time to give you context for who they are. Right?
Yeah, because once we get on to the journey, or once we get to the point of like, okay, these characters are now brought together, which is a little bit before the midway point of the movie, that you see them in the same space together. Then I retroactively cared a lot more about that first 30 minutes, because it's like, oh, I know what this guy's deal is. I know what this guy is. The only person we have to meet is the Nazi.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So, yeah.
And that's another kind of theme of this movie, and it's also a theme in the original, I assume, in the novel. It's the idea of men who maybe are nihilistic in some way, or what's the word? I can't think of it, but they're people who are selfish. They're people who don't have a whole lot of consideration for their fellow man, right? And they are now forced, in order to escape the hell that they have created for themselves, they're forced to work together, right?
Yeah, it creates a little brotherhood, right? Like it's kind of like it's like the term that became popular over the last 25 years. It's like a band of brothers now, and that is ultimately, I mean, we're jumping ahead a lot, but it's kind of what it does the men too.
Yeah, sure.
Because we'll get there.
And that I think is part of just, I mean, yeah, that's both of them end in different ways, but in very similar thematic ways. And it's interesting, definitely bleak, but also probably telling that there's really no escape.
Wages of Fears pretty much ends like an Italian giallo.
Yeah, kind of.
From what I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
I did not watch that, though.
Oh, wait, on Wages of Fear? Yeah, kind of. Yeah, kind of.
I mean, you're going to talk about it later. I'll say
We'll
what I'm
talk about it
thinking
later.
then.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's very on the nose. Anyway, yeah. So yeah. I mean, where should we pick this up? They're all in Port Veneer.
Yeah. So the only two people, like, so we noticed that Kasim, who is now going by, or Kasim, I'm not sure exactly how that's pronounced, is going by Martinez. He is constantly hanging out with this old guy named Marquez, who is a German.
Yeah.
And they are they're kind of thick as thieves, really. Scheider kind of has a passing conversation with Victor, who goes by the name Serrano, and they, he's like, well, I hear you're a banker from Paris. Is that right? And he's like, man, and then the cops come and bust Scheider's chops for having forged papers.
Yeah, they should
get a third of whatever income he makes in town. Basically,
makes it that much more impossible for him to escape.
Yeah, he hasn't. He's probably newer there, right? They've just kind of gotten wind of his presence, and they haven't shook him down yet. So they got to make sure to get to him. Yeah.
And they even try to it's like, I gotta have my fake ass papers back, or I can't make the money that you're gonna ultimately get.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Juan Dominguez, that's just, I want to go by Juan Dominguez someday.
I mean, he can almost pull it off.
He
can almost pull it off. That dark hair complexion. Yeah.
He gets himself a good tan down there. This is a sweaty ass movie, man.
Dirty, so dirty.
Oh my God, so much sweat, so much oil, so much dirt.
It's another benefit of the color, honestly, against the black and white.
Oh my God,
you really get a sense of like the.
I could smell this movie. It's like, take a fucking shower, movie.
I also
watch that bullshit dye out of your hair, movie.
I was trying to think about why I picked this movie. Actually,
yeah, I'm kind of curious why.
Because and I think it's because I like jungle movies a lot. Like I love them, and I like movies with synth scores, and this has a really killer Tangerine Dream.
I mean, it's Tangerine Dream. We're back to Tangerine Dream. Welcome back, Tangerine Dream.
I mean, it's a great score.
It's a good score.
It's so good. And it just has a vibe to it. And like you said, that second hour is like white knuckle tension. Yeah.
What's great about the Tangerine
Dream? And I saw it was on Criterion. And I was like, hey, we all have access to it. Let's watch it.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt there. The Tangerine Dream score is used so effectively in this that the end of the movie, you know exactly what happens, even though you don't see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You think this is another movie that Michael Mann saw and he's like, yes, Thief, these guys?
Probably, yeah, absolutely. Man, I love that moment when they turn the floodlights on the truck.
It's so cool,
and the score hits in right, synchronized with the lights coming on. Oh, it's so cool.
That's like a precursor
cinema, man. It's fucking cinema. Yeah,
that's like a precursor to like '80s horror that had cars.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's John Carpenter, man.
Yeah, that scene, you're like, oh, John shit.
Yeah, we saw this with Christine. We've seen this with Halloween 3.
Yep.
So cool.
So basically, Scheider, he briefly has the conversation with Victor / Serrano, but we know that that Juan Dominguez works for the he's a construction guy, right? Is that what they say? He's
I get the names mixed up in this, but
Roy Scheider.
I know that's Scheider. I think he's like a laborer. I don't think he actually works for the
he doesn't work for the oil company, but
the French guy does. The French guy works for the oil company.
I thought Victor said, oh, you're in construction, or you a road worker or something. I can't remember exactly what he says, but it's very obviously just backbreaking physical. Everybody in this town does physical backbreaking labor.
Yeah. Everybody in this town is essentially makes just enough money to have a really bad place to live and just enough food and drink to survive.
Yeah, it's a little bit like a stew. It's like slop is what they're eating, and they have a little bit of water, a
couple beers and some water. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't know, man. I mean, of course, until Nilo comes into town, he's buying Coca-Colas. He's buying the Cokes in the bottle.
Yeah,
but no, most of the time it's like you get a beer and some slop in a fucking plate. And you probably don't have soap for your shower before you go to bed. Oh,
a real funny aside. In the original, there are two of the four drivers, and the main character, his name is Mario, and his buddy that he lives with,
Luigi?
he roommates with, his name is Luigi. Yeah.
Oh, we're on to you,
And
Nintendo.
I went down that rabbit hole, and I could not find any confirmed connection between the two. But that
Why is
killed-
Mario's name Mario, by the way?
good question.
That's an excellent question. Are we sure that wasn't just from the 1993 movie?
Well, I mean, Mario Brothers. The
Well,
last
yeah,
name
but
has
I
to be
mean-
Mario.
Luigi.
I
Mario.
guess. I mean,
Mario.
We can be past this. Sorry.
yeah, we need to get past
It was
this
supposed to
fast
just be
because-
a laugh and go moment.
Oh boy. But what's
Anyway.
funny too is the guy who plays Luigi looks like Mario, so it's even weirder. It's like, what the hell's happening?
Mind blown.
Mind blown.
Wages of Wario. That's what you should make that movie.
Wages of Wario. There you go. Yep.
Anyway, so basically, now the Martinez and Marquez, so the two thickest thieves, they do work for the oil company, don't they?
Yeah. Pretty sure.
So but shortly after this is when the oil well is exploded.
Yes.
And I will give this movie the hand. I'll give it to him for a realistic scene of them passing the bodies out of the because those bodies look real, like it looked like they were all like blown up and everything. And I think at one point you just see a random hand or an arm in the ground from the explosion as it's kind of like panning over the destruction. Mm-hmm. But then when they're like, when they have the bodies in the plastic bags and they're like passing it off to be driven into town and everything, and it's like that is another kind of Exorcist like shot, right? Where they're parading that back to, they're going back to town from the oil well with the bodies on the truck, and of course the people are like, they're all
revolting.
Angry. Say what?
They're revolting.
Yeah, it's like just everything. It's like you cannot get any lower than what's happening right now. And then when the nighttime comes, that's when they come, into the town and they're like parading. It's like a funeral parade at that point.
Yeah.
And that's when I noticed it's like Nilo's hair is not colored with actual dye because he's like washing himself up before he look, and he's got like all of his dye is kind of like his ink instead of actual dye, and it's like, oh, he's on the run from somebody too, I think, or he's trying to disguise himself, one or the other. But
yeah.
So after this, it's like now they got to try to figure out how to shut the flame off, basically, and they're like, well, we have some dynamite out in the fucking rainforest.
Oh yeah, I like this scene. This is good stuff.
Yeah, so they go out there. Well, go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they go out there. So the geography of this movie is a little confusing. I just want to get that out. In the original, it's not as confusing because they have to. I guess I'll get there in a minute. But they go out to it's like a shack in the jungle where they store the dynamite, and I don't know who is the guy that's with Corlett, the oil executive.
He's just a guy that would be able to put out the fire.
Yeah, he's like an engineer.
A demolition expert or something.
Yeah, an engineer or a demolition. Yeah,
because they take him in the helicopter, they drive him, they fly him by the explosion, and he's like, okay, we can blow this out. Like, we've done it before, I've seen worse, let's go. So he's like, all right, cool, no problem. They have to blow this thing out, otherwise they'll have to shut down the oil well completely because they won't be able to afford the labor, and they have quotas to fill, and it's a whole lot of capitalist bullshit. But they're like, we got to get this blown out as fast as possible. So they go to get the dynamite, and he's inspecting the dynamite, the engineer, and he sees that the top sticks are very dry and crumbly. He's like, this isn't good. Like, when's the last time this has been rotated? And they're like, rotate.
Yeah, the guy who takes him out there is like, I don't know.
No one told us about rotating dynamite.
Yeah, this shit's been like this since I got here.
and he puts his hand down at the bottom of the bag in the box, and he brings it up, and it's wet with the nitroglycerin. So all the nitroglycerin has seeped out of dynamite to the bottom of this bag, and he goes outside real carefully with his hand and then flicks it off, and it creates a small explosion.
Oh yeah, this would be nightmare shit if you like just suddenly put your hand in a whole bunch of nitroglycerin, because that shit is volatile.
Yeah, well, what's crazy is the original movie. It's liquid. It's not even dynamite. Like it is in barrels, like jugs.
Oh God,
just pure liquid nitroglycerin. Yeah. So I like this. I like the twist of this. Right? Is like, okay, well, is it still usable? The guy asks, and he's like, yeah, if we can get it to the site, I could still use it. But it's a pretty volatile. It's in a pretty volatile state. It's
218 miles that fucking
and it's
way.
218 miles that way.
Yeah,
exactly. Which makes me try to figure out. All right, so why is the dynamite here and the oil well there, and how do all of the day laborers get to the place?
It's a long ass commute to work, man.
I know it's a long ass commute, but it has a shitty bridge.
Yeah.
Well, I have an idea of why the dynamite is where it's at. It's possible there are mines out there, and they were using the dynamite to blow the mines up, or it is near I mean, they are kind of fighting rebels too, right? So it's like it could be near like an installation that's just not seen action, so they don't know or it's manned by stupid people who don't know you got to turn that stuff.
So
I'm saying stupid because they should be taught that, not stupid that you got to do that, because I didn't know that.
In Wages of Fear, it is a commuting situation. Like they commute, right? In the road, there isn't a rickety ass bridge in the original that they would have to contend with every day on that commute, right? So in some ways, like the coolest set piece in this movie is also its biggest plot hole.
Well, I think these are three different locations.
It is three. Wait, what do you mean?
Well, I think that I'm not sure that the day laborers have to go across the same bridge that the truck has to go across.
I mean, they live in the town.
But they live in the town, just like the guys who have to drive the trucks there.
There's a better
word. I thought the trucks went closer to where the dynamite was. I could be wrong on that. I mean,
no, but they had to travel.
No, but I'm saying they have to travel to the site every day. That commute.
Right, I'm saying I think that the rope bridge, the rickety rope bridge, is between the dynamite and the fire, not between the town and the fire.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Well, then you would just go back to the town and drive on another road if you had an easy route, though. Like it is kind of confusing.
But maybe there isn't one. Maybe there. But yeah, that doesn't make sense either.
I mean, they had the helicopter out to the jungle to get to the dynamite.
I like that.
So all of that is treacherous.
I like that they do eliminate the possibility that they can fly the dynamite.
The turbulence is the problem.
It's like ain't no way. The turbulence.
If it was well kept, no problem. But it's not well kept.
You kind of have to forget the geography, though, in the location of the workers versus the place, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you could backtrack and take a better road. Why you would not do that?
Right.
But
was there also a time issue too? Because it's like, could that mean you couldn't backtrack to go there because it would have taken more time to get there instead of just trying to cut through the jungle?
I don't even know if it's worth covering that plot hole to discuss that.
I don't know.
No, I don't know.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just thought it was three different locations, and they could only load the trucks at the dynamite, and there is no better way to go.
Well, dynamite and nitroglycerin were not the only explosive substances in this movie. There was also a bottle of J&B.
Hell yeah!
On that oil executive's desk.
Yes, it was. He even drank some, and I was like, "Give me some of that J&B."
J&B.
You know that shit is disgusting.
It's so bad. It's It's so bad. Sorry, JMB. You will not be a sponsor.
They can be a sponsor. I want the ashtray, even though I don't smoke.
I can't drink it. It's so bad.
It is bad.
All right.
Coors, call us up, Coors. We're there for you.
So yes, Miller would be the one. Yeah. Anyway,
Well, isn't Miller and Coors, aren't they?
I think they're all owned by some like foreign conglomerate now. Yeah, like some German conglomerate now. Yeah, pretty sure.
Probably that goddamn Marquez.
I think Bud Light is too. I think that's like the funny thing of like, oh yeah, we're gonna.
Well, the Bud is owned by Stella Artois.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway. All right.
Anyway, that's a rabbit hole.
That's a whole other topic.
So this is where they're like, all right, well, we got to transport it. What's his name? Corlett. He says, I can transport. I can figure it out. He's like, I'm going to figure it out. So that's when they decide if they can't fly it, they're going to drive it, and he's got to find drivers. And he's going to pay a driver 10,000 pesos. 4 drivers, 10,000 pesos each. 2 trucks, 2 per truck, to transport like 3 crates each of this nitroglycerin in like a sand bedded truck bed.
That's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. It's a smart idea. This is a smarter idea than what they do in which
I just don't understand why they didn't bury it completely.
I know, right? Like pile all the sand on, right?
Yes.
I'm sure there's a lot of dirt and sand where you are because it looked like the roads were made of it.
Like I totally agree. Like mound that shit on there, right? Yeah.
Right.
I do wonder though, because I wondered at first, it's like, is that just kind of like sawdust so that if it leaks out, it has someplace to go?
I'm pretty sure it was sand.
Yeah,
it was way too strong to be sawdust.
Sure.
And they were
I was just wondering if it was like there to protect it also from leaking out as opposed to also jostling,
The dynamite is in wax, heavy wax paper that is then set in wooden crates. Yeah, wooden crates. So it's not actually leaking out at all because the heavy wax paper is collecting all of it in the wooden crate. Which is important to know later because when he like pokes the hole in the paper, the wax paper, so that he can allow it to seep out when he pulls up the rock.
Is what I think is the coolest set piece in this movie.
That is a really awesome cool scene.
But that scene is fucking fantastic.
It's wonderful. It's really good in the original too, but it's different. It's a rock. It's really good. So I don't know. It's like, oh my god, like. He's like almost shaking. It reminds me of
Indiana Jones,
Miles Dyson in Terminator 2.
Oh yeah,
when he's holding the explosive, before it. He's like, I don't know how long I can hold it for.
That's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, like you said, the 4 drivers are split into 2 trucks with the 3 containers in each truck. The drivers realize, or Roy Scheider realizes, like, hey, you only need one of these to put out the fucking explosion. So you don't expect one of us or one of these trucks to make it back. So we want double. And the guy's like, you leave in 4 hours. I don't know if that means I agree with you or sorry, fuck you. You're going regardless.
Well, let's talk a little bit about economics and inflation for a second, because I could not figure out what 10,000 pesos in 1977 would translate to in American dollars in 1977, and what that would translate then to U.S. dollars. Like, the peso has been so volatile over the years, I could not get a bead on its value at that
peso
rate.
Glycerin.
Peso glycerin, yeah. It needs to be stabilized by dynamite.
Well, also this isn't Mexico, too.
That's true.
It's another country.
That's true. It's not necessarily a Mexican peso.
Yeah, because it's like a Canadian dollar, an American dollar, and a New Zealand dollar, and an Australian dollar. They're all different.
That's a very good point. But apparently, 10,000 pesos
is enough to risk your fucking life for.
Is a lot of money. Yeah. And it's definitely
enough to get them out of their.
It's definitely enough to get them out, because I think like the lowest estimate one of them got was around like $2,000 1,000 pesos total to get one of them out. So yeah, this is going to be, they can go probably somewhere and live pretty comfortably with this money. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So then he holds the auditions, which we have already talked about, and then our 4 guys get picked, except Nero doesn't get picked.
Well, he didn't even try.
Yeah, he was there.
Did he try?
Yeah,
he was there.
So.
Oh, okay.
Because he walks out when the 4 are picked, and he's the last to walk out of the little area. And they're all kind of staring at him. But he's going to get on this. He's going to get on this
getting on
fucking
there.
route. Yeah.
And he kills the German at the last minute, and then they have no choice but to pick him because he's there. But Amadou doesn't, or Martinez doesn't like that because he thinks he's a Nazi killer because he
just killed his friend.
He just killed his friend, yeah, who is a legit, Nazi hiding out in El Rey, basically. But he's on the team, and he's paired with Juan Dominguez, Jackie Scanlon. Fucking Juan Dominguez.
So good.
I mean, the only thing he needed was like a big old fake bushy mustache or something.
And a sombrero or something.
Yeah, or something, yeah.
Or a baseball bat.
Yeah. Totally. But and this is where the movie kind of turns into the Treasure of Sierra Madre in a lot of ways, right?
Yep.
Like that's a man. That is. I think that movie is even way better than Wages of Fear. Like Treasure of Sierra Madre is like the crown jewel of this type of movie, right? The desperation and the allure of riches and what it does to the psyche and your character, and then also in both positive and negative ways, right? Like the trials and tribulations that you encounter and how those change you and who you become. Because I think in a lot of ways these are 4 guys who have tried to take shortcuts in life. One of them, at least, I think had, even though he's a terrorist, had a cause, right? But still taking shortcuts to get what he wants in that cause by begetting violence with violence, right? And they have to be patient. They have to be meticulous. They have to be slow. There are no shortcuts on this journey, right?
Because as attested when they get to the fork in the road.
Yes. Yes. The shortcut means your life at this point.
There's no map for that direction, so fuck you. I ain't going that way.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly right. And that's really where the meat of this movie starts. It's that journey to get from point A to point B and all of the obstacles in between. And there are some pretty hefty obstacles. The first,
Tarzan Man and the little bridge.
oh my god, that kills me. Yeah.
I think
that is the first obstacle. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a little dude, not a little dude, he's actually quite a big dude, running in front of Scanlon, Jackie, and his Nilo, I think. Yeah, Nilo. Yeah. He's like, get the fuck out of the road. Get up.
And he's like just giggling. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy's like giggling. Then he gets to where the roadblock is and he lays down. And I absolutely love this cut too, because they're like, how the fuck are they going to get beyond this? And they don't show them getting beyond it. They immediately cut to Manzan and Martinez finding the note that says, good luck.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good luck getting across this bridge. And then they argue over who's going to
Oh, my God. That was hilarious. It's like, no, I'm driving. You're guiding. It's like,
he's like, no, get the fuck in the truck.
yeah.
He's like, fine. But that's really tense when go ahead, Jeff.
When the tire hits the rotten spot and they go, and it's like,
and then you see the shift of the boxes in the bed of the truck, and you're like, oh, it's fucking over for these 2 gentlemen, or at least one of them. It takes
Well,
a lot of faith.
the other one's close enough to also be gone. too.
Yes. Yeah, it didn't matter. Like, their argument over who was driving really is inconsequential. They both be blown to bits.
Unless the second guy is 3 miles that direction. Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. Let's talk about that a little bit. So this reminds me of when Susan and I on our honeymoon were driving from Sonoma into San Francisco, and we were driving down Highway 1. And Highway 1 is scary as fuck, man.
It is.
It is right on the edge of the cliff. It's like you look down in the passenger seat and you just see the abyss.
Yeah.
You're staring into the abyss, and neither one of us could bear to be the passenger, right?
Oh, because you're right on the edge.
Because you're right on the edge, and you didn't have any control, right? So we kept having to switch.
Using the imaginary foot brake.
I could only handle it for so. Yeah, absolutely. I could only handle it for so long, and then we had to like pull off on one of those scenic spots. And I would throw up over the edge. We would take a picture together, and then I'd get back in the car. And then
Take a picture of the two of you throwing up together.
And then I would white knuckle it with, then drive for about the next 20 minutes until Susan couldn't handle it anymore. So if it were me, I'd want to be the driver, right?
Right.
So I would be arguing to drive. Like, if I know I'm going to be blown up on this little wood like platform thing, if he fucks up, I mean, I'd rather be the one in control of that.
What's the more important job here, though? Because there is like a thought of maybe being in the position of guiding the truck is more important,
and knowing like what spots are weak and what are not. Okay.
So there is an argument there in this movie. Your situation, maybe not, unless you are kind of guiding the driver.
Okay, I see that. Maybe he's thinking that it is the more important job. Yeah. And driving the truck is if he does what I say, it'll be just fine.
Yep.
All right.
There's an argument there. I'm not saying that's the point, but there's definitely like two ways to look at that situation.
But yeah, I think you're right. I buy that.
But it is so tense. I'm like, I don't normally like this kind of tension in movies. I'm like, but this one I was white knuckling with them, but I was actually like along for the ride. Like I felt like I was driving the truck almost.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's effective.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's how are we getting out of this? How are they going to get out of this? Yeah. How am I going to get to the next scene? It's like, is there going to be anybody left in the next scene? Is this just going to be 45 minutes of fucking credits?
Yeah. Did everybody actually die?
Yeah. Did they blow the whole country up?
But they do end up getting over that bridge. And then the next, I think, obstacle is the fucking jungle, man, which is muddy and gross, and
there's another crazy person in there. Just the guy in there.
He's like, the town you're looking for is fucking dead. And one dude's like, he's loco. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, he's spooky. Like, go back the other way.
Yeah, but then Scanlon argues.
Marquez, what did he say? I forget what the name of that town was. Pozo Rico is dead. Yeah.
Pozo Rico is dead. And then Scanlon has the argument with Serrano, or Dominguez has the argument with Serrano that we talked about earlier about we're not taking the high road.
Yeah, because they catch up. They catch up to him because they're trying to decide which way to go, and the other truck catches up. Yep.
And he's like, no, can you read a fucking map? We're taking the road on the map.
Yeah, because this is where Scanlon's getting antsy, right? He's like, well, I want to stay above the swamp.
Right.
It's got to be smoother up that way. And he's like, are you fucking nuts? There is nothing on the map that way.
Yeah.
They haven't gone that way. That means it's not tame. It's not.
We don't know what you think it is. We don't know what it is. We literally do not know.
We know that there is. We know that there's a fucking bridge coming.
We know that there is at least a way through. Maybe, hopefully, if that fucking bridge stays. Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm going over that bridge first. I'm not going to be the second asshole to go across the bridge.
Well, I mean, Serrano really had no choice because Dominguez was in front of him, right?
Right.
And it's hilarious because they get over the bridge easily. I think Dominguez and Nilo comparatively easily. And Dominguez is like, "Can you imagine? We're both going to get double shares because there's no fucking way they are getting over this bridge."
Yep, and he's excited about it.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like, ooh, really, dude? Like,
like
this is the kind of person he is.
I know, right?
You're seeing the version of him in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. The opportunistic Juan Dominguez is coming out. Yep. Yeah.
I would just want a shirt that just says Juan Dominguez.
I want a shirt that says Juan Dominguez with Roy Scheider from this movie, like all dirty and mucky, and like I think that would be fantastic.
I think you should get him in his ghost phase when they're in the salt flats or whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah. Yes. Where he's like totally freaking out.
He looks like a ghost.
Yeah. Well, that might be a little bit of a
foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The crossing by Serrano and Martinez is fucking harrowing. Like when they go over that bridge, like Martinez falls through it and Serrano can't see him, and he's like, I can't see, and he almost runs him over, and then they pull him out, and then what I think is the sorcerer in this movie is a tree that attacks them. Is that the sorcerer?
No, the sorcerer is the name of the truck.
Oh,
yeah, it's the sorcerer, and there's another truck. What the other truck is named?
The Santa Maria.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it's called. But yeah,
the Juan Dominguez.
Yes.
Honestly, I don't mean to be like hyperbolic here, but this is easily one of the worst titled movies we've ever covered on this show, right?
Oh, it's terribly titled. Yeah.
I mean, this movie should have just been called fucking bitchin' 2 scenes of crossing a goddamn bridge.
I mean, just call it The Wages of Fear. I mean, fucking Christ, right?
I mean,
so
Juan Dominguez.
So Friedkin realized he fucked up. He's like, yeah, I shouldn't have called it that. But he had his tenuous reason for calling it Sorcerer. He's such a goofball. He's trying to tie it back to thematically to Lazarus was the other truck, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Trying to tie thematically back to The Exorcist with this. But he said that the sorcerer is an evil wizard. And in this case, the evil wizard is fate. The fact that somebody can walk out of their front door and a hurricane can take them away, an earthquake or something falling through the roof. And the idea that we don't really have control over our own fates, neither our births nor our deaths, is something that has haunted me since I was intelligent enough to contemplate something like it.
Yeah, but the problem is in this movie, though, they do make all of their choices.
Yes.
So they are in the positions they're in because they actively took that. That's not a good explanation.
It's very strange. Strange. I agree.
It's not. There is a sense of fate catching up to you at the end of this movie, though.
Oh, sure.
So that's what I think he's talking about.
That is certainly a theme. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there's a better explanation of all. Like I said, it's like the moment anybody shows any kind of humanity, they're fucking offed immediately.
A little bit.
Yes, that's true too. But maybe
it's almost like they are almost fated not to be human.
They're beyond redemption.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. They're The Walking Dead. Really.
Yeah,
that's a better title for this movie too.
That would have been a great title.
But the thing you just said, Jeff, is going to be an interesting conversation at the end. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
About what happens at the end.
Sure. I think empirically we can make some choice. We only have a couple of options there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, they use the winch. They get it. We don't know this, but like the bridge falls apart right as they're about to make the last push over. And then of course it cuts to the other guys coming up to the tree that's blocking the road.
Oh,
yeah.
That sense of defeat. on Roy Scheider's face. It's like,
It's just 8 trees. It's just 8 trees.
Yeah, we could cut them all down. I'm like, dude, you're going to have to calm the fuck down because you're not cutting all this shit down.
Nope.
But then the other two do show up, so they survived, right? And Martinez is like, he gets up on the tree, he pounds on it. He's like, I can clear it.
Yep.
And then they make this Rube Goldberg. It's not really a Rube Goldberg, but I'll just say it is. Like,
it's brilliant. It's fucking brilliant.
It's fucking awesome. Like when they filled the bag, I'm like, that's not explosives, is it? No, I'm like, no, he's weighing it so he can.
He's Indiana Jonesing it.
He can poke a hole in it, and as it releases all its stones, he can run away while a rock drops on the one crate of nitroglycerin or dynamite that they leaked out of the wax paper, and man, that fucking thing goes up.
Yeah,
like the explosion, whatever explosion they did in the movie, like on set, I'm like, that looked fucking real. It blew, I mean, I'm sure it was real, but it looked like powerful.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I think it created dark matter.
I mean, there's pieces.
It obliterated that tree.
There's pieces of that tree still landing today.
There's pieces of that tree on your front porch.
Right,
But it's so good. They do blow up that tree. They get through. And I think now it's like there's a sense of relief, right? And they're focusing on Serrano and Martinez as they're driving. They start to have a human moment, like Jeff, you alluded to earlier. They're talking about
Serrano's talking about his wife.
His wife at home. He shows them the watch, which says something like 10 years and forever, right? Like we're going to be together forever. And they kind of let their guard down, right? A little bit. And they're not paying attention to the road. They're thinking about what lies ahead of success, right? I might be able to go home. As soon as that happens, tire blows, truck goes off the edge, and
boom.
It's a big old boom.
Yeah, it blows the shit out of them. So many good explosions in this movie.
Oh my god, this movie is The Explosion the Movie. There's another title for free.
For Friedkin?
For Friedkin, yeah.
Free for Friedkin.
So, because it's like, I will be honest with you. When the tree was exploded, I thought, oh man, there's all sorts of shit that you can roll over and blow out a tire now. That might be the next problem, is something get wedged in there. But no, then I thought, it's like, wow, those are pretty big tires. I don't think wood is going to do it. And so I let my guard down, and what fucking happens? Yeah. I mean, a rock catches them.
And there's a cool shot a little later of the watch on the ground and blood rushing over it.
Oh yeah.
It's like, damn.
Oh yeah, because one guy got blown out of the truck into the gravel.
I think they both did.
In the original, what happens is it's a big rock that had to roll down off the hill, and it was blocking the path. So what they do is they have a big crowbar, like one of those really long ones with a pointy end, and Luigi gets up there on the rock and he bores a hole in it. Because this is where I was thinking about the physics of that scene in Sorcerer. Like, would it really work that way? Or would it just create like a surface explosion? Because
you're talking about the tree now?
Yeah, with the tree. But in Wages of Fear, what they do is they bore a hole in the rock. But of course, it's a rock, not a tree. So it's a much more dense element. But they bore a hole, and then what he does is he gets one of the containers of nitroglycerin, and he gets a stick that's long enough to go down the hole, and he pours it ever so gently down the stick, almost like honey on a stick with ants,
Yep.
So it goes down the stick real gently, and he fills up the hole, and then he does something similar with the counterweight, but he has a wick that when it gets up to the top, it'll burn the string, and hammer will drop and ignite. Yeah.
Rad.
Nitroglycerin, and it explodes. But there's an extra element to it. They realize, oh shit, we got to move the trucks, right? So they move the trucks as far away as they can, and then the guy lights the wick. He runs up the hill to where they park the trucks, and he looks. He's like, well, what happens if more rocks fall down the hill? You parked them right by where could be a rock avalanche.
Oh.
And so they all like run the fuck up the hill to get away from the trucks, while Luigi decides, well, I can still go and stop the wick, right? I can run and I can stop it from igniting, but he doesn't get far. He runs down the path right out of sight, and then boom, it explodes. So you don't know what happens to Luigi. Turns out he's okay, but
he's like, boing.
But he,
Sorry.
it's me.
And he just got shorter.
But then he meets his fate shortly thereafter in a similar way as they do in Sorcerer. Yeah, but it's like this whole extra tension because they're like, holy shit, we might.
Well, the
explosion we create might also create a chain reaction that kills us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that happens with the tree, it's like they're in such shock after that's like, oh my God, the path is open again.
Yeah.
That you almost sit there and wonder, it's like, did it not work?
Yeah.
Because it's like you now see this kind of U shape. It's like, oh, they got to blow more away, or they got.
There's no celebration there.
No. It's just like it's like this kind of muted relief.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was looking at it too and feeling the same thing. Like maybe they didn't blow up enough, but they did, and that again, Serrano and Martinez meet their demise when they go over the edge of the cliff. And then Dominguez and Nilo pull up because they see the explosion out in the distance while they're pouring gas into the tank. And they pull up on it and they're like, oh, this sucks. And while they're thinking, oh, this sucks, some mercenaries.
Benditos.
Yeah, Benditos. Yeah, they're like, what do you got in the truck? And he's like, I got Wonder Bread, I got toilet paper, I got
Vienna sausages.
Vienna sausages.
You have all the things we need. You don't need to worry.
Yeah, we needed Vienna sausages.
Kleenex. Toilet paper.
And Nilo is apparently dying in the truck already.
No,
I
think he's just being
I think he's sick, honestly, because there's a character in Wages of Fear that has like
that's
cement.
Luigi is terminal like lung cancer or something.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of a nod to that.
Could be.
I think he was just being. I think he was just being.
But he does get. But doesn't he get shot?
He does get.
Yeah,
shot.
he does.
That's
get
what
shot.
kills him.
Yeah, he gets shot in the chest above his lungs on the right side. Yeah, not in his heart, so he dies slow.
But he takes out 3 of the guys. Nilo does.
He's a badass, like a professional killer. He is. Yeah.
Yeah, he shoots one guy right through the eye hole, and then Scheider's like, "I'm gonna need a bigger shovel," and he beats the shit out of the last guy and kills him, and then. He has this really delirious. He brings Nilo back into the truck, dying, and he has this really delirious, like extremely delirious ghost deal. Like, is he already dead? Kind of drive back to the town, like it's really like kind of off-putting. Almost.
So this is where I think the movie Sorcerer doesn't quite hammer home what the Wages of Fear means.
What does it mean, Jason?
Well, it's the toll it takes, the fear that this journey takes you through. You'll never be the same. There's a character in Wage of the Fear who refuses to do it. This is like I've seen people have to take on similar tasks and missions, and they come back changed. They come back a shell of themselves. That's if they survive at all, right? And that's kind of I think what Friedkin is trying to convey here is that he's been broken. He's been kind of like he'll never ever be able to like probably live without that anxiety and that fear of the edge, right? Because he's been there. He's on right there at the abyss,
right?
And he's seen it. Right?
Well, I will say, definitely got the feeling that he was broken.
Yeah.
Not that he would never be able to live on that edge again. Or without that edge. But yeah, I mean, I think it's well executed, but it's still crazy. It's fucking nuts. He hears fucking Nilo laughing at him while he's already dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, this is
it's hallucinatory. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, the truck stops because the engine got shot also. So the engine gives out. Also, it's 4 guys who I'm not entirely sure could build a truck, have built 2 trucks. That could also be part of the problem. because there's a fucking banker building the truck. Okay.
I mean, there's an easy explanation for that. He has been a machinist where he's at. But
Yeah, I mean,
it is a little bit suspender.
I thought that was kind of strange too, because in Agents of Fear, they give them like 2 brand new trucks, and they actually have engineers stabilize the nitroglycerin as much as possible with the tools they have. And they mentioned multiple times that this is the best we can do with the limited resources we have. But it's still like a brand new fucking truck, right? Yeah.
I don't know. It wouldn't have had the same weight like the truck building montage if it was just weird dudes doing it.
Sure.
That montage was cool.
It was
Yeah,
cool.
it was cool,
Like,
yeah.
it was incredibly cinematic. I agree.
Yeah,
It
okay.
was.
I mean, fair, but
It has to get to that bitch and synth, floodlights.
right,
Oh my
exactly.
God, so good.
Yeah, it's like
It's
we
worth it
gotta
for
have
that.
this scene. How are we gonna
Night
get there?
Beast, the
It
Night
was-
Beast out there.
Yeah, fuck yeah, man. It was in Billy's brain. He's like, it had to get out of his brain.
Yeah,
and I'm glad for it.
But yeah, so the truck did get shot when I think it was shot before.
Nilo either shot it or
shot
the
it.
guy shot him when they shot at him. One or the other. Yeah.
And so so the truck dies and he's like a mile and a half short or something. And so it's like he fucking delivers a box on foot.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, all the guys who are like waiting for it, they're like, yeah. Like when he stumbles into the town, and and so basically he gets brought back to the town he was living in, Porvenir, and he's like, he's not there really, like he's cleaned up, he got himself a nice like seersucker suit. You know, he's rich now, and he's got job offers. Mm-hmm. He's got a passport to Colombia, or for Colombia. It's great. Everything's great. But he's just not, like, he's dead inside. Like, the only thing he can think to do was he knows that the one girl that worked at the one girl who worked at the diner liked the Frenchman.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of, you know, hey, I want this dance. You know, I want you to feel
he
nice.
asks her to dance. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a sweet thing.
It is a sweet thing.
Because I'm sure she wasn't happy to find out that guy didn't come back.
There's also a sense of his like re-emerging humanity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
yeah. It's
also
like
a
I'm
sense-
about
Makes
to
the
leave.
actual ending like really hurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a sense
because he's
that he
on his
knows
way out.
He knows what's coming.
Yeah.
You get the feeling that he knows what's coming.
Possible.
Yeah. I mean, it could be shadowed a little bit that way too.
He
And
wants his last dance.
Yeah.
Like it
And
couldn't be more
He realizes there's really no way out for him. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because like even if he did leave on the plane, he's going to be right back, basically living in a very similar scenario. He might have a slightly better job, but it's going to be basically the same scenario.
His past is going to catch up to him.
Yeah, and eventually he's going to get someplace where somebody's going to recognize him if they weren't already on his tail.
That's what I'm saying.
Had
Past will catch up.
he not taken this task, he may have been able to live out the rest of his life in this hell, right? But you get the sense that the news of his
Yes.
like accomplishment
His heroism put him on television or something.
is exactly what got the attention of the gangsters who are looking for him. Yep.
Agree.
Well, also he did get sold out too. I mean,
Who sold him out?
the same guy who set up the boat to take him wherever he was going.
Well, he said he didn't know, but I guess he could know where he was going.
It's possible. Yeah.
Because he certainly is there. I mean, he's there at the end.
Yeah. I mean, he had no choice. He said, "I don't know you from here on out." Right. Yeah. So, unfortunately, he's obligated to do whatever he's told at that point. So there is that ambiguity too.
That's true.
But it is a really cool scene, and how I talked about the way that the soundtrack, the Tangerine Dream, like high synth is used. It's always used before something bad happens. Mm-hmm. And he's having his last dance. That high synth kicks in. The taxi rolls up. The two guys get out, and you're like, oh. And I think I heard a bullet shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty sure.
It could have been a strike of the synth, but yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
There was
Agree.
definitely like a sharp sound. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he's dead, right? There's no other way around it.
Oh,
Dude's
yeah,
dead.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking, I did not expect to like this movie. I hate the title,
Yeah.
but I really, really like this movie a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
I mean, and I, like I said, I'm 50-50. I really didn't care much for the beginning, even though there's a lot that I did like about the first half. Most of it is the visual and kind of the audio visual was what I liked about the first half more than I actually liked the movie itself. But no, that the second hour is that is some damn good filmmaking.
Yeah.
The first half of the movie, I would have been like, this is average at best. Second half, I'm like, yeah, Roger Ebert, you're right. This is the ninth best movie of 1977. I mean, I don't know.
It's interesting. I mean, I love the first half, so it's interesting.
I think it's going to be a mileage may vary sort of thing, right? It's like, but once they've got the job, once we know what's supposed to happen, I'm in. Then it's like, oh, you got me now. It's like, I want to watch this part.
It's a good hook. It just takes a little time to sink in.
Yeah.
What are you saying? This is the third or fourth time you've seen it, Jason? Somewhere
I would
around
say
there?
it's like I think it's probably the third time. Yeah.
And you still think it's really
I like it quite a lot. Quite a lot.
quite a bit. I like it a lot.
It still edges out the original for me. That may be sacrilege to some people, but fuck you. I like what I like.
I'm highly interested in watching that now.
But I think you should. I think it is a fun watch, and there's definitely like there are moments in the original that I think are even more tense than the remake.
that's wild to me, given what was it made 20 years earlier.
Yeah, so 24 years. So that was a funny thing. I was thinking about that. It was made 24 years before. It was made in 1953, but that would be like making a movie from 2000 now.
I know, right?
I feel so
Right?
old, right?
Yeah.
But cinema changed a lot more between 1954 and 1977 than it has between 2000 and now. Right,
Yes,
like the
it's true.
capabilities.
It's like the accelerated rate of technology.
Yeah.
You're right. The gap is much bigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to circle back around on, because we did mention it last week, is this was actually not released on the same day as Star Wars. It was released 1 month to the day from Star Wars, which was worse. Which is actually
which
worse.
is worse.
Yeah, because
nobody's going to see a new movie. Or
Star Wars actually was released fairly small at first because nobody really knew what it was going to be. And science fiction is not super popular in the 70s, although I will say probably Logan's Run had a lot to do with bringing it back, not just Star Wars. But anyway, but 1 month later, that's even worse. And it's worse for multiple reasons, because by then the rest of the world knew, holy shit, we got to go see the Star Wars thing.
Yeah, and it was going into more screens.
Yep. And also, Smokey and the Bandit, which flopped on its initial release in May, was starting to pick up ground in the South by this time and was soon to be released everywhere again to much, much better. And that's number 2 for the year. Just the week before this, the 5th placed movie of the year, A Bridge Too Far, was released, as was the number 6 movie of the year, The Deep. So already you're getting crowded out. And then 2 weeks later, the number 7 movie on 7/7/77, The Spy Who Loved Me. You are not going anywhere. Yeah, it's like, forget the title, forget a 2-hour runtime that has a slow first half. You're not getting anywhere with that. I mean, that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the top 7 movies were released at the same time. We're in release at the same time as this movie's release was. So yeah, this movie had no hope of being successful.
I mean, it lost what, $12 million?
Yeah,
Probably even a little bit more than that.
When you consider marketing and things.
Yeah.
Who knows? It was a huge bomb.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean this movie it was not released the same day as Star Wars. It was worse. It was 1 month later.
This movie deserved a better fate.
It
Probably.
did.
I mean,
That was half a joke.
Yeah. But I mean, the critics. I mean, it's kind of interesting because it took reappraisal because some critics weren't on board for it. I mentioned that Ebert placed the number 9 for the year, which is pretty good for 1977, all things considered, with what was also out at that time. It's but like at the same time though, it took later. I mean, the reassessment later is where everything, like Movie Phone News critic Robert C. Cumbo, that's an unfortunate name, was highly critical of it at the time, but he reconsidered and he's like, yeah, I fucked up. I am. That's an embarrassment that I did that. That I gave it the bad review I did. So yeah, I mean, it was mixed at first, and then it got there eventually. So it's kind of one of those diamonds in the rough,
William Friedkin never had another hit. Like,
no.
If you look at his filmography, after Exorcist, I mean, not a lot of his movies are really well thought of. Sorcerer, I do think is an excellent film. I also think To Live and Die in L.A. is an excellent film. I also really like Cruisin', but none of those movies made money.
I think Blue Chips was pretty good, if I remember correctly.
Blue Chips,
Nick Nolte,
but it didn't make any money.
It was still, I think, a good movie.
We've talked about Jade.
Oh yeah, we have. That's right.
Oh my God, that movie's shit.
That's a bad movie.
The Guardian. You're telling me The Guardian is no good? The Druid horror movie?
I've never seen The Guardian.
Oh my God. The behind the scenes of that is hilarious because he ran that shit into the fucking ground. Like, I don't know if he did that on purpose or what, but
I think maybe he ended up being his own worst enemy in his career. But he never really made any money on a movie again.
Although I
saw a bunch of his movies that I didn't realize was William Friedkin.
I think The Brinks Job was well liked, but I don't know if it was. Yeah, it didn't really do that well.
I think he actually ended his career pretty well. His last, I never saw the Kane Mutiny Court Martial. I should take that back. I haven't seen that. I think that's a remake. But Killer Joe, Bug, and The Hunted are all really good.
Well, he obviously knows what he's doing, right? Whether the movies were critically acclaimed or successful, like he's a good director.
Oh yeah.
And those movies I think were critically acclaimed. I think he ended his career on kind of a at least a critical upturn. Rules of Engagement I think was just like a Hollywood bullshit.
I'll tell you what, Jade was fun to watch, no matter how bad it is.
Man, that movie's so bad.
I don't know, man.
We struggled with Jade. We did that for Sexy September one year.
Well, yeah.
The very first Sexy. It was the very first movie of Sexy September.
I'm talking about a 17-year-old Chuck.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah, I was there too. I mean,
for sure.
It's snowbound, but it served a purpose.
At least for a few minutes.
Oh, damn.
Tino.
Yeah, but no, I mean,
the ending of Wages of Fear, how it differs. It's so he's the only one that survives. He's lauded as a hero. Everybody's happy for him. He gets his money, and he's given the truck to drive himself back. Right, and he's nonchalantly driving this truck, like he's not thinking about, he almost seems like his hubris has taken him to the point where he is indestructible. He cannot die. Right, he's driving the truck back, and he's going down a windy road that they previously were like having to crawl up really slowly. Right, he's going down it, and he's like moving the steering wheel back and forth, like driving kind of reckless. Actually, is driving recklessly, and he loses control and he drives off the road, off the cliff, and dies.
That is totally a Giallo ending. Like the comeuppance for the villain who thought they got away and they fly off a cliff and get blown up. I mean, I think I've seen it in at least 10 movies.
Yeah, I mean, the killer runs out into the road, gets hit by a truck, and gets dragged behind it.
And his name was Mario. So
yeah. No more power-ups for that fool.
Nope. The Koopa Troopas finally got him.
Yep.
Maybe it was one of the Spinies, and it like popped the tire. And
probably. Good pick, Jason. Good pick. I enjoyed this.
Cool, man. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, while I'm not in love with the movie as a whole, I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I saw it.
You'll be wanting to listen to that score.
Yeah, well, the score is pretty great.
I got that shit on vinyl, and it's so nice.
Hell yeah. Jeff, what's next for our group?
So it's my month. July is Jeff's month. And you know what Jeff thought? Jeff's like, you know what he really, really, really gets a kick out of? Number 2. These are the movies that didn't quite win Best Picture, but probably could have, / maybe in some of these cases should have.
Maybe in a tangent universe.
And maybe in a tangent universe. There's only one where I was like, no, you don't get. I'm sorry, Stanley, you don't get it. Because it was up against the best movie ever made. But anyway.
Cuckoo.
Yeah. So a whole month of movies that were nominated Best Picture, nominated with almost similarly across the board, and did not bring home the hardware, but are all highly, highly well thought of movies. And we start with one of my favorite movies of all time once again, and that is The Graduate.
Nice.
So the talk about a soundtrack, that's a pretty good one.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of tangent universes,
we'll have to figure that out later, Jeff.
Yeah, I think so.
She's in.
Oh yeah.
They share an actor.
Yeah. Whew. All right. So The Graduate, that kicks off Oscars number 2's. I don't know what to call that month, but anyway, it's the theme month of next month.
And they could have been a contender. Well, they were.
Yeah,
They were
a contender. They could have been a winner. They could have been a winner.
They could have been a winner.
Yeah, there you go. So The Graduate, that is on July 3rd. So check that out at filmseizure.com. And go to there to find out where you can follow us on the social medias, where you can subscribe to us on the various podcast providers that we are on. So do that. Why don't yous?
That's the whole month of July. Is that what's happening?
Do you want to know what the other movies are?
Yeah, tell
Shall
us.
I go ahead and say? Okay, so we're going to do it 60s through the aughts in order. So we kick things off with The Graduate. That's the 60s representative. Then we go to the 70s for Barry Lyndon, a movie that's been long on the list, I think.
Yeah.
Then we go to the 80s with Prizzi's Honor. Then we go to the 90s for Babe, another one of my favorite movies of all time.
That'll do, pig.
By the way, Barry Lyndon, Prizzi's Honor, and Babe, that's 75, 85, 95. How about that?
Boy, we're doing a lot of George Miller this year.
Uh-huh. And then we go to 2006 for the final one, which is Capote, a story that I am fascinated with. That whole thing that they're telling in that movie is just fascinating to me.
I have 2 first-time watches this month, and I have not seen Prizzi's Honor.
Yeah.
And I have not seen, even though I know Truman Capote and I've seen In Cold Blood and all of that, I have not seen the Philip Seymour Hoffman biopic.
So, you're in for it.
Love it.
A good one.
Yeah, it's a real good one.
I'm excited to see that.
And Prizzi's Honor returns us to, speaking of, the Treasure of Sierra Madre. It brings us back to John Huston.
John Huston, okay. Yeah. Nice.
So, and Jack Nicholson's back.
And
Yes.
Jack's back, baby.
Yep, he's trying to get that title from William Shatner as the most watched actor on this podcast.
Does
Never going to happen.
Does Barry Lyndon have a 4K UHD yet?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I have a criterion of it. I can't remember if it's 4K.
I don't think they've done a
I've got a
4K there
Blu-ray
yet.
of it, but man, I need.
So yeah, so go to filmseizure.com for that next month. Also, filmseizure.com on Monday kicks off 2 months worth of me catching up on some TV shows. This first month, this first 4 that I have in July are all TV shows I've covered before on Monster Mondays. And the 5 that finish it out are from 2 series. One I made a mental note of myself to do, which is kind of related to our Trekcations in the past. And finally doing a Twilight Zone episode. Also kind of connected to Trekcation. Wink, wink, wink. William Shatner, fuckers.
There's something on the wing, fuckers.
Yeah, that's right. The most famous of all the Twilight Zones.
For sure.
But anyway, not my favorite of the ones he was in, though. I liked the one with the little devil head in the diner more. Anyway, so that is also at filmseizure.com on Mondays, starting Monday, July 1st. This upcoming weekend at my website, bmovieanima.com, on Friday, I have a review of Auntie Lee's Meat Pies, a movie that is way better than it has any business being.
I agree.
And then this weekend on Saturday, B-Movie Anima, the series, the 11th episode of the 5th season brings us the 4th victim. See what I
Hell
did there with
yeah.
all those numbers?
Hell yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah, that's a good one. Carol Baker. I know a couple of guys who really like her.
I definitely
Yeah, she's
am
pretty
one of
good.
those guys.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
definitely. And that's a good one. I like that one. Anyway, that's what's going on there. So, with all that said, Juan Dominguez out.
Chuck Moore out also.
I'm Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film.